If you're a CFOP solver, cross can be the hardest step to improve at. There's just so much freedom. Then there is cross to F12 transition that is even harder to nail. It's almost weird that despite all these problems, cross is the least developed step in CFOP. But this is not true. There are a lot of tricks in cross step. There's X crosses, there's pseudo cross, there's free FOP, and a few more. In this video, I'm going to talk about a new technique called 3/4 cross. So I'm going to do a scramble and I'm going to solve on yellow. So if you want to follow along and you have a specific cross color, keep it on the bottom. So as you can see here, we have two edges already in place and the third edge can go in one move, but the fourth edge is going to take 4 more moves, so it's going to be a 5 move cross. But what we can do is we can just solve one edge and start with F12 and then see what we're going to do with this at some later point in the step. So here we can spot this F12 edge, F12 pair, and it's going to be a 5 mover because it has to go in the slot. And what that's going to do, it's going to bring this out, our U to R prime. It's going to put it here, and when we insert it, it's going to be here with yellow facing on top. So we can, since this is misoriented, we can put it over here and we can insert it. So going ahead with it. So we have solved two F12 pairs and 3/4 of a cross. This piece is still outside, but we'll worry about that later because this is a pair that was very easy to spot with, so we can just solve this. And since at this point I don't really know where the edge for this corner is, it's down here actually, but I can't see it from here. So what I can do is I can look at this edge and I can insert it, and now I'm done with F12 minus 1, and now I can just solve this edge and be done with F12. At this point, the natural question is, how is this any good? You're almost solving cross and then doing a bit of F12 and then finishing cross and then again doing F12. This would require a similar move count and would hinder flow and would slow you down. But what you're overlooking is the massive head start we got in inspection. Planning two F12 pairs in inspection is very impressive and helpful for solve times. But of course, this approach is not always useful, and out of experience, I guess a reasonable frequency is anything between using it once in 5 to once in 15 solves. Now, the example that I showed had a lot of flaws that could be improved upon, and you can really make use of this technique in a lot of ways. So here, we were at this stage in the example where we had solved 3/4 of a cross and we had done two F12 pairs, and we saw this pair was very easy to spot. So at this point, what we could have done instead of what we did was we could pair it up similar way, and now while we insert it, we could cancel into putting this in. And these sort of cancellations almost always happen. It's not anything new. And this is one of the things that you need to be careful about. You'll be able to find it. So now I'm going to talk about a few things that we could have done better in the solve from the start. So I'll scramble the cube again. So we have the same scramble again, and we saw last time that we had to stop F12 midway because we could not spot one of the edges. So that happened because over here we have an F12 pair and F12 piece, and if an F12 piece is stuck in a place where we have to put the cross edge, then obviously until we put in the cross edge, it's not going to come out that easily. So a good way to ensure that this sort of thing does not happen is to put in a piece over here, an edge that has a color that is opposite that of cross. So in this case, we should put one of the white edges in here. So a better thing to do instead of what we did was, once we put this in and while we're solving this, we could solve this in a way to pair this up, and then we could insert it, of course, but we could insert it like this. And this took advantage of two things. First of all, now we do not have an F12 pair in here, and since we do not have an F12 pair in, piece in here, we can complete the entirety of F12 and then put this piece in, so we would not hinder our F12 look ahead or any sort of flow. And the other thing is, from here, instead of inserting it in 4 moves, we insert it in 1 move. That is because we don't have anything to preserve over here. So if you put it in like this, we have saved 3 moves and we're completely fine. We have nothing to lose. At this point, we can see that this is a good thing, a good pair. So we can put this pair in, and here there's a third thing that we can exploit. What we can do is, since there is no F12 pair here, while we inserted this, we could have just done an F over here and then put this up. And these sort of opportunities pop up all the time. It happened once in the last solve as well. But most importantly, a very important thing to keep in mind is, as much as possible, keep the void being the place where the cross edge is not solved, keep the void in the front or in the back, because that way you will avoid S moves. And if it's in the front, there's a good chance that you'll get this opportunity of doing an F or maybe even an R prime FR, which is much faster than doing an M insert. This is clearly much faster. Anyway, since we are trying to look for more things that we can do with this, let's not solve it this way. Let's try to look for more advantages. So we can look at this pair and we can try to solve this, and the next pair we see is this. And since the void is on the right, I don't want it on the right, so without thinking at all, I'm just going to rotate to put it in front. Now here's another advantage that I can make of this particular case. So if I put it in here like this, I'm going to get a case that's, not great. But if you've done any amount of Ru, you know that this is an arrow. So if you have only one oriented edge on top and it's not the cross edge, then you can keep it at the back and you can insert it like this to give you a cross on top. And this way you can use COLL or in general get easier OLLs, or even potentially use ZBLL if you know the case. And that'll be a great use of this technique. One thing that I could not cover yet is suppose you have this sort of case where you completed solving the entirety of F12, and at this point you could in principle insert it and then get a back soon, which is not bad. Or what you can do is you can just do this soon, and this gives you a step in Ru where you have oriented all your edges and all you got to do is do LR. And in this case, I'm not good at Ru, but well, you could do LR like this, and then you could solve according to Ru if you want. This is just something that you might be interested in. I am not sure whether it's good enough. It's something that you can take an advantage of, but sometimes probably yes. If inserting this gives you a worse OLL or things like that, then of course you can definitely take advantage of that. So I guess that's it from my side, and best of luck.